We're almost halfway through the season. I'm Dustin. Welcome to Fantasy Smack Talk. Before we get into the people to add, FST 2014 is our promo code for FanDuel. If your fantasy team's not looking that good, you're looking for something else to get into, they're a lot of fun. Go ahead and sign up, deposit, use our code. Let's talk about some running backs, and I got a few that are definitely worth adds in all leagues. First one, just Ronnie Hillman. You know, we know what he can do at this point. Only on the 60% of leagues still. You know, there is a legitimate chance that Monte Ball comes back and doesn't have a starting job. You know, it's unfortunate for Ball owners who are hoping that Hillman will step aside once Ball comes back, but that might not happen. So Hillman needs to be owned in all leagues because he could possibly be the starting running back for the Broncos from here on out. Denard Robinson's the next guy. It was announced just before the games on Sunday that he was going to be their starting running back. And I ran to my computer, picked him up in all my leagues, so I got lucky on that one. If you didn't get him though, you saw what he did, over 100 yards and a touchdown. He is now the starting running back out there, and what I love about him is in some formats, some leagues, he has wide receiver and running back eligibility. I mean, what's not to like about that? This is a very athletic kid as well. He was quarterback in college. Go ahead and check out some of his YouTube highlights. Pretty impressive. This is a guy that's just a very talented player. They could have him throw the ball. He's just a guy that gives the Jaguars something to look forward to. He's their starting running back from here on out, even once Gerhardt gets healthy. Robinson, very exciting. Trey Mason, another very exciting young player. You know, I talked about him last week as far as a guy that's looking pretty good and looking like the best running back for the Rams, and I think the Rams are seeing the same thing. You know, this is a guy that was a healthy scratch for the first few weeks, but it seems like they're confident enough to throw him in there. And this is a guy that was in the running for the Heisman. I mean, this isn't just, you know, some rookie running back that we don't really know about. This is a really talented running back who needs to be owned in all leagues at this point because he appears to be the running back to own for the Rams. Now let's talk about the Bills situation. Both of them, CJ Spiller and Fred Jackson, go down with injury. Spiller's out for the year. Fred Jackson probably at least a month, I would say, which makes it interesting because there's no clear cut as far as who's next in line. You know, Bryce Brown is a guy that you're going to want to look at, only on about 5% of leagues, and Anthony Dixon also owned in about 5% of leagues. Both these guys are going to take over the workload for the Bills. You know, I think Dixon kind of fits more what Fred Jackson was. Bryce Brown fits more kind of what CJ Spiller was. If it was me and I had to pick between the two, I would go Bryce Brown. I think he's, you know, has more upside. But I think Dixon might be a little bit safer, but we're not going to know how this one shakes out until we see them play. But both of them are worth adding in pretty much all leagues until we see how this one shakes out. Jonathan Stewart, I wanted to talk about him just because he's a starting running back in the NFL. He's not very exciting. He's probably going to get hurt at some point, but if you're desperate, you know he's at least going to get some carries. Devontae Freeman. I mean, can we get any clarity out in Atlanta, please? I mean, it's Smith, then it's Freeman. It's a mess. If you're looking for a high upside running back to add to your bench, Anton Smith and Devontae Freeman are both guys that I think should be owned in a lot of leagues, just as high upside stashes on your bench just to see. But Devontae Freeman got more involved week 7. We'll see what happens week 8. But either way, Freeman's a guy that I still like. I still think he needs to be owned in leagues just as a high upside guy. Some receivers. Odell Beckham, we talked about him last week. I mean, after the Cruz injury, you got to get excited about this rookie, but still only owned about 50% of leagues. That I didn't really understand. You know, if you didn't pick him up, you're probably kicking yourself after his 2 touchdowns week 7, but go ahead. This guy could be the real deal for a long time. He's a great young player. Go ahead, try to get him on your team. He's a must-add in all leagues. Doug Baldwin, someone we need to talk about. You know, with the surprising Percy Harvin trade, Baldwin's the clear winner there. Now, don't go crazy over his stats week 7. They were playing from behind almost the entire game, which was surprising against the Rams. I mean, we didn't really see that one coming. I think his targets were inflated, but the one thing I do like about his targets is that he was clearly the most targeted receiver, and I think that will continue for the Seahawks as far as Baldwin being the most targeted receiver for them. So I do like him as a must-add in all leagues, but I don't think he's going to be amazing, but I do think he's worth adding. Devontae Adams is a guy I want to talk about as well. 15% of leagues he's owned in right now. As far as receivers that don't see much time out on the field that have big upsides, I think he's at the top of this list. If Jordy Nelson or Randall Cobb get hurt, Adams could just catapult right into be a top 20 receiver. He's on a great offense. He's shown some very good flashes of some talent. He's a rookie out there for them. I like his upside. I normally don't stash wide receivers on my bench and hope for an injury like I do running backs, but Adams is a guy that I would consider doing that with because I think his upside is huge. At tight end, I want to talk about Jordan Reed. He's only on a 75% of leagues, so I thought that was a little bit low. I mean, if he's healthy, he's a top 10 tight end. It's as simple as that. He's talented. The Redskins are going to count on him. He's got 2 good receivers on his team taking some pressure off of him. He's going to have solid games when he's healthy. He needs to be owned just in case he does stay healthy for the rest of the year. Philly's defense only on the 70% of leagues because I think they're dropped going into their bye week by a decent amount of teams. Pick them up. Every year there's a defense that kind of breaks out of nowhere and just scores touchdowns, and just no matter who they play, they're putting up fantasy points. So far this year, that's been the Phillies. It was the Chiefs last year. It just seems like every year there's one defense that just, they take a lot of gambles. They might give up a decent amount of points, but they score fantasy points because they're going for those interceptions. They're returning some kicks for touchdowns. So I think Philly could be that defense. I like them from here on out. I think they're a must-add in all leagues. And then Miami's defense is my pick-up and play. It's their chance against Jacksonville Week 8. Miami's actually been pretty good. I'm surprised they're only on about 20% of leagues with how good their defense has been. But I like them as a pick-up and play. If you're looking for a defense, they're the one for this week. It's just a portion of the list. If you want to see the full list, get on the website. As always, get in those forums if you got any questions. I'm Dustin. We'll see you later in the week.